Growing up as a kid, I had the privilege to work on a number of dairy farms. We had a hobby farm in Cumberland, and my grandfather had dairy cows, and I had the chance to work for several uncles and friends. On my grandpa's dairy farm, one of the jobs I loved, and it would happen more now in the spring and summer, of course, we have to call the cattle in. They'd be put out to pasture during the day, and sometimes at night, and Grandpa would say to me, "Andy, I want you to go out and call in the cattle." "Okay." And I'd race out into the pasture. "Here, boss. Come, boss. Here, bossy. Come, boss." And all these cows, they wanted to be milked, so they'd hear the voice and they'd just start coming. And my job, of course, was twofold. I had to open and close the gate, because once I forgot, and it wasn't a pretty picture. It's this notion that, and I'd count them. My grandpa would milk anywhere between 28 to 32 Holsteins, and that was one of my jobs. They'd come through: 1 black and white cow, 2 black and white cows, 3, and they'd keep coming through. And if I counted them in, close the gate. It's this notion of a gate that I was thinking about all week in light of the gospel reading today. Jesus not only says that he's a shepherd and calls us, just like I would call those cattle, he's the gate. And I want you to think about what that means. As a shepherd, he calls and he invites and protects. But a gate is a boundary. A gate is a sign and a line of protection. You're either in or you're out. It's real clear. It's real clear. Pick one. And obviously the goal was to call them in through the gate and then shut the gate. Be that sign of protection, that line of defense. Today what I'd want to think about is that if we take that seriously, that Christ is the gate, then what does that mean? And I'd like to give you a simple litmus test to just put it right on the line. Works like this. If any one of us got word that at midnight tonight we would die, that at midnight tonight God would call us home, are we ready? Do we have any unfinished business that needs to be attended to? Life is going to call on us. There's lots of things, people we wouldn't want to leave. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this. If we had to show up in front of the gates of heaven right now, would they let us in? Or do we have unfinished business? Are there things that need to be said, things that need to be done? The way in which you and I live, does something need to change? Because if we show up at the gate and they go, "Well, we're glad to see ya, but..." What is it that we would need to do? See, it's a gate. Only this is the gate of heaven. Are we ready to walk in? Are we prepared? Or is there a relationship in our lives that's broken and needs some repair? Is there something between us and God that isn't right and needs to be repaired? Is there something in my heart that I have allowed to fester and get just really ugly that needs to be changed? Is there something going on around me that I know is not right, not good, not true, and I have stood by and said nothing, done nothing to at least say, "Hey, I don't agree"? Or has my silence just kind of allowed it to continue? This is not easy. But Christ is the gate, which means that one day you and I are all going to walk right by Jesus. He's going to stand there. He died for us. The reading today makes it clear. By the wounds of his cross, you and I get to go to heaven. So he's going to greet us at the door, at the gate, and we're going to look him in the eyes. We're going to look the Savior of the world in the eye. He's got this gaze filled with love. Can we meet it? Can we look into the eyes of Jesus and say, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for the next step"? Because friends, if we're not, then today is a pretty good day to work on that. If there's something unfinished, if there's something that needs to be attended to, maybe today, maybe this week, maybe this month, maybe now is the time to say, I'm going to do that. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and dive in. Because I don't want to be unprepared whenever the day comes when God calls me home. I want to be ready. I want to have my affairs in order. He's the shepherd. He's the gate. He calls and he guards. And he does it out of love. There is nothing that we might have to work on today that we need to be afraid of. God will give us the strength. God saved us out of love. God's not going to do this to punish. God invites us to become the person we're called to be, filled with love, filled with life, filled with hope and joy. Today is the day, perhaps, that we get to be about that, so that when God calls, we're ready. God bless you all.